So now let's talk about the law of supply. We've done law of demand, we've done change in quantity demanded, and we've done change in demand. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with supply. Now supply is different because when you're demanding stuff, you're seeing it as a consumer. When you are supplying, on the supply side, you're a producer, right? You have to look at it from an entirely different perspective. So some of you may have jobs where you work for a company that's trying to sell something. Maybe you do lawn and landscaping, or you're trying to, you're getting paid for working. So anytime you're producing something, you want to sell it for a really high price, right? And if the price is really high, then maybe you'll sell a lot more. So for example, my son used to have these lemonade stands when he was a kid. If people, and don't think about if consumers would pay that price. Just think about if the price was something. So if the price was 50 cents a cup, then he'd make a certain amount of cups. But if he was going to get $50 a cup, well, then he would be making lemonade all day, because that's an insane amount of money. So the higher the price, the more he wants to make. If the price is 10 cents a cup, then he's probably not going to want to do it. Well, that's the law of supply. Again, under a normal good, law of supply, an increase in price leads to an increase in quantity demanded, whereas a decrease in price leads to a decrease in quantity. An increase in price leads to an increase in quantity supplied, not demanded, quantity supplied, whereas a decrease in price leads to a decrease in quantity supplied. So again, as the price goes up, we're going to want to supply more and more and more, right? If I'm cutting grass, when I was a kid, I had a lawn service, I had 4, 5, or 6 yards, and I was getting $25 a pop. Well, if they were going to pay me $5 a pop, it's not worth my time, so I just wouldn't do it. If they're paying me $100 a pop, I'm going to be mowing lawn all day, right? Same thing if you're babysitting, they give you $5 an hour, you'll babysit some. They're like, we'd like you to babysit for $1,000 an hour. You're like, okay, I want to babysit all the time, right? Just never stop babysitting. So you want to supply more as the price goes up. Now, don't think about, well, no one would pay for that. That's not our concern, right? The demand, the force of demand, that downward sloping curve, is how we behave under certain conditions. Supply is the same way. It's how businesses in economics, we call those firms, it's how firms will behave under certain price conditions. So let's look at the same thing we did with demand. Let's look at Chick-fil-A, and let's look at it from Chick-fil-A's perspective, okay? Well, if the price is only 50 cents, they're not going to want to make any, because they're probably not going to make any money off of it. I mean, they got to pay for chicken and labor and all that. They're not going to make any money off of it. So you're going to supply 0 chicken sandwiches. At $1, maybe they'll just supply 1. It's not worth it. Now you go all the way up to $4, maybe they'll have 8. They'll do 8, right? I'm just making these numbers. But you can see as the price goes up, we're having an increase in quantity supplied. As the price goes down, we're having a decrease in quantity supplied. And you can see once I graph this, this is how it looks. And again, almost all supply curves are curved, right? Very rarely is it going to be a linear, positively sloped linear expression or a curve. But we're going to use linear and straight lines just again to make our math easier and just to make it sort of easier on you when you're graphing this stuff. So this is what this looks like. This supply schedule leads to a supply graph. This is my individual supply schedule. There's also a market supply schedule, etc. But supply curves are going to go up where demand curves are going to go down. And then obviously we're going to have a lot of videos of me helping you when we have supply and demand hitting each other, and what happens when all that happens, okay? But I wanted you to see this first, the law of supply, a supply schedule, and then our supply curve. And you can see we label S at the end of the curve, just like we label D at the end of the demand curve, okay? Next, we're going to do what a change in quantity supply looks like. Hint, it's the exact same as demand, just with a different sloped curve.